Hello everybody, good day to you. Please, before we dive in, smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications. Help us reach more people with this story. Alright, let's get straight to the gist. Right now, a big heat is building around the name Nnamdi Kanu, and two big figures in Nigeria, Omoyele Sowore and Atiku Abubakar, are making strong moves, calling for his release just before a major protest scheduled for October 20th. Here's what we know so far. Sowore, the activist and publisher, has declared that on October 20th, he will lead a nationwide peaceful march to the Aso Rock presidential villa in Abuja. His demand: unconditional release of Nnamdi Kanu, or at least a fair trial. He calls this march historic, urging Nigerians, especially leaders from the southeast, governors, senators, traditional rulers, to come out in support. Atiku Abubakar, former vice president, has publicly aligned himself with this call. He described Kanu's continued detention, in spite of court bail orders, as an open sore on our nation's conscience. Atiku says either Kanu is released or made to face trial. Nigeria cannot have cases lingering forever. Now, of course, things are not that simple. The presidency has reacted sharply. The Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, called Sowore an anarchist masquerading as a rights activist, accusing him of wanting to cause a breakdown of law and order under the guise of protest. They also criticized Atiku's support, calling it opportunistic, questioning how a statesman could back what they see as mob action. Sowore, on his side, is not shaken. He challenges Southeast political leaders, naming governors like Charles Soludo, Anambra, Alex Otti, Abia, and the political heavyweights like Peter Obi, to stop hiding and join the protest. He says the silence is suspicion enough. He claims he tried contacting some of them, but was ignored or blocked. It's not just political men now. An assembly of Igbo women has thrown support behind the protest. They announced they'll mobilize women across Igbo land to join the movement, saying the issue transcends tribe. It's about justice. They argue that Nigeria, if it can negotiate with armed bandits, should be able to respect the rule of law and release Kanu if warranted. Let me put this in context. Nnamdi Kanu is the leader of IPOB, indigenous people of Biafra, and has long been in a tug-of-war with the Nigerian state. He was arrested in 2021 following his extradition from Kenya. His lawyers and supporters claim he is being treated unfairly despite court orders. On the other hand, the government insists he must face trial. They point to serious charges of terrorism, treasonable felony, and others. Recently, a court has ruled that his case should proceed. It rejected attempts to dismiss charges, saying the state has enough evidence to go on. This means the push by Sowore, Atiku, and others is not just about freeing him from custody, but about challenging how the justice system is handling the case. Now, some food for your thoughts. Is this protest going to help or further complicate Kanu's legal situation? Can mobilizing on the streets push the government to act, or will security clampdowns undermine the movement? What happens if key leaders from the southeast still refuse to step up? Will the momentum stall? Can this become a turning point for how Nigerians see the rule of law, especially where powerful individuals are involved? As this whole affair unfolds, one thing is clear. Tensions are high. The state is warning against disorder. Protesters are vowing peaceful but firm action. It's a showdown between civil society energy and state restraint. So, I'll be following this story closely. I'll bring you updates, especially as October 20th nears. Make sure you stay tuned here. Like this video, subscribe, drop your comments. Do you support the protest? Do you believe this is the right way forward? I'll read your views and we'll talk them out. We need to look deeper at what is actually at stake here. On the face of it, this is about one man, Nnamdi Kanu, and whether he stays detained or goes free. But underneath that are bigger questions. Trust in the justice system, regional grievances, how protests shape politics in Nigeria, and how politicians use popular movements. Let's break it down in plain terms you can follow. First, the legal picture. Kanu has long-standing charges linked to alleged offenses against the state, counts often described as terrorism and treasonable felony. His lawyers insist that courts have granted him bail at various times, and that certain procedural rights have not been respected. The state argues there is strong evidence and national security concerns that justify trying him and keeping him in custody under close supervision. That tension, fair trial versus national security, is familiar in many countries, and it's messy. Court rulings so far show judges are split on how to balance those competing interests. The important thing for ordinary Nigerians is this: when a court sets bail or orders something, citizens expect the state to obey the court. When that doesn't happen, trust in institutions takes a hit. Second, the political picture. When figures like Omoyele Sowore and Atiku Abubakar step in, the issue moves from purely legal to political theater. Sowore is known for street mobilization. Atiku is a mainstream politician with national reach. Their joining the call sends signals to different audiences. For Sowore, it's a direct activism play. Mobilize people, show numbers, pressure the state. For Atiku, it's a political calculation. He frames it around rule of law and justice, which is attractive to voters who worry about selective application of law. This combination can amplify the message and make the government respond, either by engaging or by pushing back strongly. Third, the security and public order angle. The presidency and security agencies often worry that marches to symbolic places, like the presidential villas, can escalate. When a protest heads to a high security area, authorities may respond with heavy security restrictions, checkpoints, or even bans on the march. That raises the risk of clashes. Protest leaders say they want peaceful marches. Security agencies say they must prevent breaches. Between those two claims, there is always a dangerous gray area. If you plan to protest, be alert, follow lawful instructions, and avoid violence. If you are watching from home, be critical of both extreme narratives. Don't accept that every march must be violent, but also don't romanticize confrontation. Fourth, the regional and social ripple effects. Kanu's detention is especially sensitive in the southeast. Support or silence from regional leaders matters. If governors and prominent figures join the march or openly support it, turnout and legitimacy will be higher. If they stay out, organizers may still mobilize grassroots supporters, but the narrative becomes one of people versus elites. Also, groups like associations of women and civil society can change the tone. The more diverse the supporters, young people, market women, professionals, the harder it is for critics to dismiss the movement as narrow or extreme. Fifth, what could happen next? Let's run through realistic scenarios so we're not caught off guard. The government engages. In this case, authorities might open talks, promise a speedy trial, or agree to better transparency. That could reduce tensions and turn a potential crisis into a legal process that people watch closely. It's the least disruptive outcome. The government stands firm and enforces the law strictly. This could mean arrests, movement restrictions, or force to stop the march. That risks clashes, which could make the story bigger and create sympathy for the protesters. The court system acts decisively. If a high court orders release or a clear timetable for trial, that may calm things. If courts are perceived as indecisive or partisan, protests may grow. The movement loses steam. If organizers fail to bring enough people, or if regional leaders do not endorse the action, the protest might fizzle. That would still leave unanswered questions about bail and the legal process. Any of these outcomes will shape Nigeria's political calendar and public trust. Sixth, what does this mean for everyday Nigerians? 2 quick points. If you are worried about justice and fairness, the story matters because it tests whether institutions work the same for everyone. If you care about security and stability, it matters because protests can either highlight real problems or trigger unrest. For the business community, uncertainty can slow investment. For students and workers, fear of disruption matters for daily life. 7. Practical advice for those who want to engage safely. If you plan to join a lawful, peaceful protest, keep the simple rules in mind. Carry only what you need. Travel in groups. Share your location with someone you trust. Obey peaceful instructions from organizers and avoid provocations. Do not bring weapons or violent paraphernalia. If you see violence, remove yourself and report it to trusted sources. If you're commenting online, stick to facts and avoid amplifying unverified rumors. Misinformation fans the flames. 8. For viewers who want to act but can't or won't attend protests, there are other ways. Sign petitions, support independent media covering the case, donate to legal defense funds if you trust them, write to your representatives, or engage in peaceful civic campaigns that demand transparent legal processes. Democracy works better when citizens use multiple avenues, not just the streets. 9th, the media's role. Independent reporting matters. When mainstream and social media repeat unchecked claims, the public loses clarity. Reliable journalists will check court documents, speak to lawyers for both sides, and place events in historical context. That's what viewers should demand, not partisan headlines. 10th, how to think about motives. People join movements for many reasons: ideological, emotional, opportunistic, or principled. Be skeptical of blanket explanations. Ask, who benefits politically from this mobilization? Who loses? That helps keep analysis grounded. Now, let me close this segment with a few questions for you. Put your answers in the comments. Do you think a march to the presidential villa is the right way to press for justice? Would you join? Or would you prefer court-centered pressure through lawyers and petitions? How much should politicians like Atiku be involved in civil actions organized by activists? I'll read your comments and bring the most thoughtful ones into the next update. Remember to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell so you get notified. It helps the channel grow and helps more people hear balanced news. If you want me to keep following this story closely, say continue, and I'll bring legal expert views, reactions from regional leaders, and a timeline of Kanu's case next. Like and subscribe, please. Thanks for staying with me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts below.